Hi, this is Mike from Bald&Balding. I'm the bald one, if you hadn't guessed.
There's
And
two bald ones.
hey, why do you think I chose you on the interview? Bald is beautiful. So I'm here today at Incredible Con in Charleston, South Carolina, and have two incredible artists, Bill and oh my goodness, Cat Mouse. Uh,
That's us.
Here's Mike.
I have blooper. We're going to do that again because blooper reel too. Uh, I've actually seen these guys at half a dozen to 10 Comic Cons, but I've never been near them and I've never actually talked to them. So now we're rectifying that. So I'm going to give the mic to Bill and then we're going to start the interview.
Awesome.
So, how long have you guys been drawing? And how long have you been trying to sell your work?
I have been drawing ever since I could hold a pencil, but professionally, I've been drawing for the past 12 years.
Right, yeah.
Mhm.
I ghosted her into a couple of card sets
Yes.
that we're working on for, was it?
The first ones that I ghosted for you because you needed help, and I was like, please let me help. I think it was the Mars Attacks.
Right,
We were doing
right.
Mars Attacks cards
So,
at that time.
so I was ghosting her into certain jobs that I was already into, and then she started just stealing those jobs from me.
Yes.
So they started asking for her by name. I started telling my publishers that it's like, oh yeah, well actually, Cat colored those. All right, well, can you tell her to turn those in because awesome, like the client likes those, and that's how she just kept on taking over. So.
Yep.
So, what percentage of your work is for hire, like over the internet or through studios, and what percent is Comic Cons?
Gosh, it's mostly for hire. It's
Yeah.
mostly publishers and individual collectors and things like that.
And
I've actually been doing this for 30 years. I'm a
Yeah.
co-founder of Parody Press and Anthony Comics. We started back in '92. We started doing San Diego Comic Con, and that's why she says she's been going to cons since she was a kid.
Since I was a fetus.
I used to hide her underneath the table while I
Yeah.
was working. So she had like a little summer camp underneath my comic.
And he'll be like, I need this pencil sharpened. And I'm like, sharpen. I need this marker. I'll fill up the marker.
yeah. She was filling blacks and coloring and doing things and filling markers and doing all this little stuff like that. So she kind of grew up around all of this.
Yeah.
This is comfortable for her.
I've tried to get away many times. I cannot escape.
We've all tried to escape. It pulls us back. So
you mentioned Mars Attacks. Have you done other popular things that people would recognize?
yeah. Well, my first I did parodies for close to 10 years for Parody Press. So that's how we first got our start in the '90s, and I've been in different Zen Intergalactic Ninja was my first more like action adventure sci-fi type of comics. We've done stories for heavy metal. We've done stories for not stories, but we've done artwork for Topps and Marvel and DC and a lot of trading cards, a lot of sketch card sets.
You did some stuff with Stargate for a minute.
Yeah, we were actually the first comic book company to license Stargate as a comic book. So we did a few issues of Stargate. So that's a little bragging rights, you know, that we were the first ones to actually license Stargate and that was actually when Don Chin was the publisher of Parody Press back in those days, and he's actually the publisher of Parody Press again now. He's actually returned to comics. So amazingly enough, full circle.
And Kat, how about you? Is there anything that people would just say that's a cat mouse print?
I do more things that are definitely either completely my own, independent, or I'm doing mostly commissions. That's where you and me differ. Where it's like you do a lot of more for hire stuff, and I do way more commission work all of the time.
Her generation blows up on the internet. You know, her generation blows up on Instagram and
I would like to do some more higher profile things. Like I would love to work on like a Batman or something Lady Death, like actually officially a story. But I'm much more confident and much more comfortable with doing things that are much more independent, working on other people's original characters or working on my own characters most of the time.
Yeah.
So how long have you been on the con scene?
Since '91, '92. It's like San Diego Comic Con. I'm actually kind of bummed. This is the first year that I'm going to be missing San Diego Comic Con since '92. So and it's because scheduling and this and that's a million different things. Other than the COVID years, I mean, during the plague, we didn't have a show for 2 years. But yeah, I'm kind of bummed out because San Diego is all of our family is in San Diego. and we like to visit them when we do the show. It's kind of like we turn it into a 2-for-1 special kind of
Oh,
trip,
always.
you know. So it's kind of a bummer that we're not going there this year, but next year we'll be back.
So you've been doing conventions since around 91,
Yeah.
and I've been doing conventions professionally, not just hiding under a table, since probably 2015. So, yeah.
I mean, I did a couple of smaller shows back when I was still in college, like 1988, between 88 and 90. I lived in Virginia Beach at the time when I was just going to community college. And my friends and I would put work in the art show and have art contests and be part of some of the smaller shows that were there. But all the shows were way smaller back then. This would be huge compared to what the kind of shows that we had back then.
The 90s were a very different time for conventions.
Yeah, very much so.
So I see a lot of people starting out, artists who have their wares. What advice would you give them? And you tell them to run free, or there's things to be had here?
That there's a really big difference between doing it as a hobby and doing it as a job. That's really the biggest difference for me, where it's just like, if you're willing to go through all of the actual hardships that it takes for it to be an actual job, then you can probably do this if you just continue.
That's the difference between doing it for a living and doing it for
a hobby,
for fun.
Yeah,
is that there's a part of the job that turns into a job.
It'll always be a job.
And like most things, persistence is key. This is like the old guy advice now, right? So it's like basically not giving up and not stopping. You know, it's like don't quit your day job right away. Right? Because this is a difficult, it's just like any other entertainment industry. There's like a million people all shooting for about 10 jobs. You know, so there's always going to be a difficulty in that respect. But at the same time, being on time, being available. I got my first gig because I talked my friend in San Diego into getting a job because he wanted to get into comics. He knew an editor. And because I talked him into getting a job, he couldn't finish the job. So I ended up penciling that job. Because
that's
I was
how
there.
That's how I got a lot of my first jobs too, is that somebody else would drop the ball and I was just there to pick it up.
Right. So just being open to doing, different, everybody wants to do their own thing, which is awesome. It's like that's what you want to do. So if that's what makes you happiest. But at the same time, be willing to wear a couple different hats in order to get there, in order to get where you're going. Yeah.
And it takes a while to build the momentum. It's like, it's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to even happen within the first 3 to 5 years either.
Artists by nature don't have a work ethic. When you see an artist with a work ethic, that's been built in from somewhere else.
They're a unicorn, and it's from somewhere else. Yeah.
So support your local artists.
I would ask is networking. How important is that, and how does one go about it? Network at Comic-Cons, or how do you connect?
Networking is the oxygen of how
different perspectives again.
Very different perspectives, but
very
networking
much.
is the oxygen to this beast.
It's half of the job.
If you don't network, no one knows you exist, and nobody will know to ask you for anything.
Right.
So it's being present most of the time, and being present is so different now than it was in the 90s.
It was, and it still is. My generation. We network here at shows. We network. We meet people. We meet people that are actually working in comics.
Portfolio reviews, approaching
we
companies.
become present. A lot of networking now is online, and that's what I do a lot nowadays. Because most of the friends that I have that work in comics, we all live far away from each other. So live streaming became super important all of a sudden, and that's since the plague. Right, live streaming exploded because it's like everybody has a TV studio in their house now.
It was our only way to have human connection with anyone.
Right, and that's I see people that I used to hang out with back in the '90s that I only see at a show once a year or a few times a year because of depending on what show. And I see those people a lot more often on my computer live streaming. I feel like I hang out with them way more often now at home
than the people that we're actually friends with in person, like that we live near.
Yeah, we see them more often. It's just one of those things.
And what other social media is useful? For Instagram, I'm guessing, for artists?
Yes, but it's whatever happens to be popular. So
you go where the people are.
You go where the people are. That's what you really have to do, along with what you're good at. It's like for somebody who's an artist, it's like things where you can show visual media, awesome. And if you're a writer, then going somewhere where written media is way more popular. Where it's like even somewhere like just on Facebook, if you do just like long Facebook posts, but it's a story, people will just be like, oh, cool, and just click on it. So it's being in a little bit of everywhere, and you see where you start building fans, because it's going to be different for everyone.
Wherever you feel more welcomed, wherever people embrace you a little bit more, that's where you end up being a little bit more active. And that just happens on its own. Yeah.
And where will you all be next?
What is our next show?
Superstar Anime is your next show.
Is it?
Yeah, I believe so.
I think it's Superstar Anime, which is it is in Virginia Beach.
Yes.
So that's a hometown show for me. So that's going to be really fun.
Right.
So, and this will probably air like August, maybe early September. So
perfect timing.
What shows later in the year will you be going to?
I think that's it for the year.
I think that's my last show that I am attending as a professional.
Yeah, we actually pulled back a lot on our shows this year so I can get caught up on the schedule. I got a lot of book deadlines and a lot of commissions that have built up, which is one of the reasons we're not doing San Diego this year.
Yeah, we actually got busy enough that it's like, oh, it actually wouldn't be professionally ethical for us to go.
I had to make a big boy decision and just like, I should really catch up on everything and get everything.
A big boy decision, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And see you on the road.
All right, thank you.